Nested sequences. A sequence nested with another sequence is simply called a nested sequence. Let's see this example, run the code and see the output to understand what does nested sequences mean. So here you have a list having an integer, another list over here, and tuple plus a string. When we print the list, it will give all the values starting from 2 till the last value, that is quick fox. When we say print mylist1, that means we need indexing over here. For this, we will first do the indexing. The entire sublist, or you should say the nested list inside the mylist, will be at the same index. So if we are trying to print mylist1, that means we are trying to print this entire list 3, 5, which is printed over here. When we are printing mylist 2, -1, so let's also do the negative indexing. Negative indexing will be something like this. So for this, when we say we have to go at mylist 2, -1, so first we go inside mylist 2, that is 5, 6. Inside this, the negative index -1 will be the last value, which is 6, which will be at -1, and 5 will be at -2. So we will print 6 in the output. Similarly, when we try to print mylist 3, -2, so mylist 3 means this tuple. Inside this -2, that means -1 is this, -2 is this element, and -3 is this. So at -2 we have 8, so 8 is printed over here. Then we are trying to print mylist 4, 2. 4, 2 means you have to go inside this string and you have to print whatever is at index 2. So at index 2 we have the character I, so I will be printed. If we try to print the type of mylist 2, which is a list, class list will be printed. If we try to print type of mylist 3, that means it is a tuple, so class tuple will be printed. And type of mylist 4, that means it is a string, so class str will be printed. Let's see another example. Over here you have a tuple. Similarly, we will have the indexing, which was there in the list. Then we try to print the tuple. The entire tuple will be printed with the round brackets. Then we say print my tuple 1. That means print this list. So this list will be printed. Similarly, 2, -1 will be the value 6 because it is at -1 indexing inside this list. So 6 will be printed. Similarly, 3, -2 will be the value 8, just like in the list, and it will be printed. Similarly, 4, 2, that means go inside the string and at index 2, which is I, will be printed. Similarly, you can print the types of my tuple 2, my tuple 3, and my tuple 4, which is class list, class tuple, and class str respectively. Now let's talk about 2D arrays. For constructing 2D arrays in Python, we can use nesting of list inside list, of tuples inside tuples, or even list inside tuples or tuples inside list. Let's try to make a matrix having 2 rows and 3 columns. The elements of the matrix are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. This is the general mathematical representation of the matrix. To do this in Python, we will consider every row as a list with comma separated values of the columns, and every row is put inside a main list, which is over here, and it is also comma separated. So by this we can say that index 0 of my matrix is having the entire row 1, index 1 is having the entire row 2. Similarly, and inside the first row, that is index 0th row, you have 0, 1, and 2, which represent the values at the 3 columns of the first row. Similarly, in the second row, we have 3 column values. So now if we try to print my matrix 1, that means the second row, it is printing 4, 5, and 6. Now you try to print my matrix 1, 2. That means go inside the second row and print the third value, which is 6. Similarly, there we have negative indexing as well. My matrix -1, 2. So -1 means that we are referring to the second row. So -1 and the second value inside that. That means at index 2 we have again 6. Similarly, my matrix 0, 2 will have the value 3. So 3 is printed over here. Nested sequence mutability. Let's see an example and understand this. Let's say we have a tuple having a string, a float, and a list. Remember that tuple is immutable, string is immutable, float is immutable, but list is mutable. So when we try to print the tuple, we get the value as it is. When we try to change the values of the list inside the tuple, that is tuple 2, 0. At 0 index, we have a string. At 1, we have a float. And at 2, we have a list. From here, at the 0th index, we want to change this value 1 to 45. And now we try to print the tuple. The value has changed. This is because list is mutable. So even if you have a mutable sequence inside an immutable sequence, you can change the contents. But remember, the immutable container, which is the tuple, cannot change its values.